The invitation came on a Thursday, and it was a good one. People I actually like, somewhere I'd have enjoyed. And I stood in my kitchen with the phone in my hand, felt the whole shape of the evening in advance, the getting ready, the drive, the being on for a few hours, and typed back that I couldn't make it. Something came up. Nothing had come up. That was the first small lie. The second was quieter, because when I set the phone down and heard the house go still, I felt a wave of relief, real, physical relief, like setting down something heavy I'd carried all day. And I told myself what I always tell myself, that this is peace, that I've earned it. Maybe you know this too. Maybe the invitations have gotten easier to turn down, the door harder to walk out of, and you've been telling yourself a kind story about why. I'm Daniel, and for years I told myself that story and believed every word of it. I don't think it was the true one anymore. There's a real reason I stopped wanting to leave the house, and it took me a long time to be honest enough to say it out loud. That's what I want to get to tonight, the real one, underneath the kind one. But I have to walk you through the kind ones first, because I believed them for a long time, and some of them are even partly true. Here's the first story I told myself, and it's the most flattering, so it's the one I held on to longest. Staying home is taking the armor off. You wear armor for 40 years. The version of you that shows up to work, that holds it together, that answers when people need something, that keeps the face on. It's heavy, and you don't feel how heavy until you finally get to take it off, and home is the one place you're allowed to. No one out there needs a performance from you at your own kitchen table. So of course the door closing feels like relief. You're setting down 40 years of armor. And when I say it, you probably feel it, because it's real. That part isn't a lie. The relief of home is genuine, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But here's where it stopped adding up. Taking the armor off doesn't require never leaving. A person can take the armor off and still go out on a Thursday. That story explains why home feels good. It doesn't explain why I stopped walking out the door at all. So the armor was real, but it wasn't the answer. There was something under it. So I told myself a second story, and this one felt wiser. Past a certain age, you stop spending yourself on the noise, the small talk, the gatherings that don't mean anything, the evenings where you make conversation with people you'll never think about again. When you were young, you had endless energy for all of it, and somewhere along the line, you looked at it clearly and decided it wasn't worth the spending. You got selective. You stopped wasting yourself on the trivial. That's not decline. That's discernment. That's a man who finally knows what his time is worth. I liked that story a lot. I told it at dinners back when I still went to them. But I want to stop and be honest here, because this is the one I had to catch myself on. That's the flattering version. It says I'm too wise for the noise now. And when I actually looked at it, really looked, I don't think I got wiser. I think I got tireder. And wise was just a nicer word for it. It's a lovely thing to tell yourself, that you've risen above the small stuff. It's less lovely, and I think more true, to admit that you just don't have the energy for it anymore, and dress the exhaustion up as wisdom, because wisdom is easier to live with. So that story wasn't the answer either. It was the same tiredness, wearing a better coat. And under it, there was still the question I kept not answering. And here's where I have to go somewhere less comfortable, because the flattering stories had run out. The world didn't get less worth it. I got less willing to be seen not enjoying it. Let me tell you about a dinner. This was a few years back, and I made myself go. One of the last times before going out became the exception instead of the rule. Good people, a nice table, everything as it should be. And I spent the entire evening performing a fine time I wasn't actually having, laughing a beat after everyone else, nodding along, managing my own face, making sure it looked like a man enjoying himself, while somewhere behind it I felt nothing much at all and was mostly counting the time until I could go home. And then the thing happened that I actually remember, the reason that night stayed with me. A woman across the table, kind, perceptive, someone I liked, caught my eye during a lull and asked me quietly if I was all right. Not as a formality. She'd seen something. She'd looked past the face I was managing and caught the man behind it counting the minutes. And do you know what I did? I smiled and told her I was fine, just a little tired. And I made myself brighter for the rest of the evening to cover it, laughed a little louder, leaned in, asked people questions. Not because the night had suddenly reached me, because someone had nearly seen that it hadn't, and I could not let that stand. I spent the back half of that dinner performing even harder, specifically so that one kind person would stop looking closely at me. I drove home wrung out, not from the company was lovely, from the labor of it, from a whole evening spent making sure my face told a story my insides weren't in on, and then working overtime the moment someone almost read the truth. That's exhausting in a way the small talk never was. It's not the noise that wears you out. It's the performance of being okay in the middle of the noise. It's going out and having to look like the evening is reaching you when it isn't, and bracing the whole time against anyone who might notice it isn't. And home. Home is the one place I don't have to perform being fine. That's what I actually started staying in for. Not the peace, the permission to stop pretending the world was landing on me the way it's supposed to. That was closer to the truth, but it still wasn't all the way down. So here's the real one, the one it took me years to say. The door is closed for two reasons, and from inside this house, I cannot tell them apart. One of them is peace. I have genuinely, honestly, in some real way, stopped needing the world out there. I have enough. The quiet is full, not empty. That's real, and on some evenings it's clearly what's happening, and those evenings are good. The other one is retreat. Somewhere along the way, I quietly stopped believing the world was worth opening the door for. Not decided, just stopped. Stopped expecting the evening out to be worth the armor and the performance and the effort, and so stopped going, and called it a preference. And here is the thing nobody tells you. Those two feel exactly the same from in here. A closed door looks identical from both sides of it. From inside this house, the evening I stay home because I'm at peace, and the evening I stay home because I've given up on the world being worth it. They are the same closed door, the same relief, the same still house, the same cup of coffee going cold beside the same chair. Sanctuary and hiding wear the same face when you're the one inside. I used to think I could tell which was which. I can't. Most nights I honestly can't say which one I'm living in. The kind story, the peace story, insists it's always the first one. Always sanctuary, never hiding. That's what makes it comfortable. And that's how I finally knew it wasn't the whole truth. Because anything that insists it's always the good version is hiding the other one behind the door. I'll be honest with you about what figuring this out did, which is less than you'd hope. It didn't sort my evenings for me. It didn't hand me a way to tell the peaceful nights from the hiding ones. Some evenings are clearly one, some are clearly the other, and most of them, if I'm truthful, I still can't file into the right box no matter how honestly I look. What changed is only this. I stopped needing to know. I stopped standing at the end of every quiet evening trying to sort it. Was that peace, or was that retreat? Did I stay home because I'm whole, or because I've quietly stopped trying? That sorting was its own kind of exhaustion, and I put it down. Not because I answered it, because I finally accepted that from inside a closed door, it often can't be answered, and that the not knowing is just the honest shape of it. That's not a solution. I want to be clear about that. I still don't always know why the door is closed. I've just stopped pretending I always do. I'll leave you with this. There's a kind story about the person who stopped wanting to leave the house, that they found their peace, that they rose above the noise, that they finally know what their time is worth. And some of that is true, some nights. But the door that keeps the world out and the door you're hiding behind are the same door, and you can't always tell, from your side of it, which one you close tonight. I've stopped trying to tell. That turned out to be the closest thing to peace I actually found, not knowing which it was, and letting the evening be quiet anyway. Tell me in the comments. When you close the door on the world, do you always know whether it's peace or something quieter than that? I'd like to know. I don't think I'm the only one who can't always say. And if you want to sit with me again, subscribe. I'll be here. I'm Daniel. I'll see you in the late hours.